What's going on, everybody? It's the Bulls Show, aka Aiden, and welcome back to another video. Ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to be discussing about whether or not the Chicago Bulls can get lucky and get a top 4 or potentially even the first overall pick in the NBA draft. Now, at the end of the day, it's luck for a reason, because the odds are not in our favor, the statistics are not in our favor, the percentage is not in our favor, and these are all the things we need to be aware of. But at the end of the day, we've seen the Chicago Bulls get lucky in the past. The question here is, will they get lucky again? And although we may get lucky, we may not get lucky, if we do get lucky in this NBA draft, what can that mean for the Chicago Bulls in the future? Before we get started, please like and subscribe to the Bulls Show, turn notifications on, and let me know in the comments below your thoughts about the Chicago Bulls, and do you see them getting lucky in this NBA draft lottery? Now, we need to be well aware about the statistics behind how likely it is for the Chicago Bulls to get into the top 4 of the NBA draft lottery. I know it's an exciting time. Bulls fans are waiting. We're having representatives. I think Dale Terry is our representative, actually, to go into to go to the draft lottery and stuff like that. So look, there is a possibility that it can happen, but it's very, very minimal. We have an 8.5% chance to get into the top 4 with a 1.8% chance to get the first overall pick. Now, the percentages are there, and they might look like good numbers to you, but at the end of the day, the harsh reality is it is very minimal that we will get those picks. It's more likely than not that our pick will go to Orlando Magic and it will fall outside of the top 4. Now, bear in mind, we need our pick to be in the top 4 for that pick to come back to us. If the pick goes outside of the top 4, then we owe that pick to the Orlando Magic due to the Wendell Carter trade. So there is a lot on the line for the Chicago Bulls. It does change how we perceive things. For example, during the draft lottery, if we don't get a top 4 pick, we may very well have a conversation with Portland about trying to renegotiate the pick that we have with them, in which we could maybe get a first round pick later on in the draft. That's a possibility. But at the same time, it's also a big possibility we may be skipping out on this draft in general. But let's say we do get lucky. We've talked about luck before, you know. We in 2008, we drafted Derrick Rose from a very, very, very unique situation, unprecedented at the time, I would say, that situation. We had very small percentages, very small odds to get the first pick, and lo and behold, the Bulls got the first pick, drafted the hometown kid, and then the whole love and hate story about Derrick Rose, the saga, the positives, the negatives, all of that came with it when it comes to how things ended up going with that, obviously, that pick with Derrick Rose. You move over into recently with our pick for Patrick Williams. That was the 4th overall pick. I'm fairly certain we were not supposed to get that 4th overall pick, or in many ways, we were not the favorites to get it. So we have been lucky in the past. Obviously, from a top 4 pick, you expect instant impact. You expect someone that's going to come in and be instantly successful for the Chicago Bulls team. You're expecting someone that can be the cornerstone. You're expecting someone that can have loads and bunches of potential. And again, someone that can make your team better straight away. Now, Patrick Williams, for many people, might not be that guy for you. At the end of the day, he's still really, really young, and there's still a lot of potential behind Patrick Williams. But right now, I would arguably say people don't perceive him as a cornerstone piece. People don't perceive him as the future of the Chicago Bulls. I think people are starting to turn their heads towards the fact that he might be a very good two-way player or a 3-and-D player, but he won't necessarily be the future of the Chicago Bulls. But in the end, it's still very early to tell. But that's what you expect with a top 4 pick. So what if the Chicago Bulls do get lucky? What if we do get into the top 4? Better yet, what if we do get the first overall pick? Well, let's talk about these things. If we get the first overall pick, that will be game-changing for the Chicago Bulls in more ways than one, because we know who we would select in the NBA draft. We would be selecting the generational 7'3" talent in Victor Wembanyama, ladies and gentlemen. So at the end of the day, that player, I think everybody wants him, you know. There was a tank for him for a reason. If the Bulls could get that first overall pick, again, miracles can happen, you know. It's not out of the realms of possibility, although deemed unlikely. Then Nikola Vucevic will be no longer needed on the Chicago Bulls team. You know, you've got your center for the future. You've got someone that can be a generational talent, and that could be a conversation piece in which that changes the entire perspective of this team. Just by getting the first overall pick, we change how this team is perceived, and we might make moves to suit Victor Wembanyama more than, of course, just, you know, keeping the team the exact same, like I believe is a possibility. But even if you get somewhere in the top 4, there are some good players in that top 4 race, ladies and gentlemen. Now, I'm not going to list them, but you can get a point guard in the top 4 race. You could get an athletic forward in the top 4 picks as well. Look, again, a top 4 piece for the Chicago Bulls can change everything towards this team. Our point guard problems could be solved. The wing play, which I feel like is a big problem for this Bulls team, can be solved. And again, it's something that we got to be aware of. And not to mention, it is a cheaper option than free agency. Rookie contracts, at the end of the day, they're there for a reason. They're rookies in the NBA. They're getting paid on a rookie salary. And that will help the Chicago Bulls in more ways than one. Again, if we can get lucky enough to get a pick in the NBA draft this upcoming season, or this upcoming off season, the money and the financial situation will also be improved because of that. If you can get a point guard in the draft, that will save you a lot of money to try and go after a really good point guard in free agency. If you get a center in the draft, then it could save you a lot of money in trying to re-sign Nikola Vucevic in free agency. Or maybe the player option for Andre Drummond gets declined because you have a lot of centers on this team, and you save money that way. It's also a good way to save money. That's what I'm trying to say. And that's, again, it can definitely determine the future as well. Because that money that we may save, we can use to go and get somebody else that can make this Bulls team better. So I wouldn't be surprised, even if we don't get a top 4 pick, I wouldn't be surprised if some way the Chicago Bulls find their way in the NBA draft. I believe that the Chicago Bulls believe they are very good at selecting people in the NBA draft. Of course, their track record right now is fairly debatable. Patrick Williams picked at the number 4 spot. I think everybody can agree at this point in time that there were better selections out there. Obviously, Ayo Dosunmu, I think, was a great pick in the second round. Marco, we don't know about. Dalen Terry didn't play, so clearly there were better picks out there as well, I would say, or at least picks that were likely to play. Dalen Terry still has a lot to prove to show that he was worth that 18th overall pick. So their track record is questionable, but I think the Bulls believe that they're very good at selecting talent. So that could be a conversation piece to have in the future. Even if we don't get lucky in the NBA draft, which is the likely outcome, we probably won't get lucky. We'll probably miss out in the draft lottery, and we'll probably miss out in the NBA draft in general if the Bulls don't make any changes or make things happen in that way. So with that in mind, the Chicago Bulls could very much miss out on this opportunity, and they might be looking at what they've been looking at for the past few seasons, and that is the after the draft signings. You know, we signed a couple of pieces for the Chicago Bulls, Justin Lewis being one of them, on a 2-way contract. Devon Dotson, you remember him? He was also another guy that the Bulls put on a 2-way contract. That could be an option that we're looking for as well. Finding another 2-way contract spot and, I guess, allowing someone to be a part of that. So that's probably what's going to be happening for the Chicago Bulls in the NBA draft. But all in all, let's hope we get lucky. If we do get lucky more than once, we've got a lucky more than once, but if we do get lucky, then all of a sudden, you know, the memories, the happiness, the joy for this day will be very, very big. Most importantly, we get to talk about draft prospects. And I think that will be a very exciting time for Bulls fans, you know. It will be back to how it was last season when we were talking about a lot of guys on the Chicago Bulls team. I think my highest video is about Kai Sotto, who's not in the NBA, I believe, but a draft prospect that we're looking at in the second round. You know, draft prospects are a very, very big deal for the NBA and for the Chicago Bulls if we're going to be participating in that. So very, very important stuff. Let's hope and wait and see what can end up happening in that regard. But I'll end this video here. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe if you're new. I'll see you in the next Chicago Bulls video. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay tuned for more. Take care and peace.